Hey, what is up, everybody? It's your boy Evan coming to you with another video, right? So we got some breaking news coming out of LA. The Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, she went ahead and held a press conference to address some of the stuff and the rioting that's going on, and during which California Senator Alex Padilla, who I'm going to refer to as Padilla because I'm sure that pisses him off, just like every other person who has the name Padilla doesn't like being called Padilla, he's going to be called Padilla. So anyways, Padilla chose to interrupt this press conference, showing no decorum and no respect for her office, which is a higher office according to the order of precedence, and that's the honors in which you give offices that are related to the government and visitors. So I thought it'd behoove us to cover some of that in the news coverage and then hear his own personal statement and talk about it. But before we get into that, two things. One of you guys asked about my plushies, and yeah, you got me. I'm a huge Pokemon fan. It is my piece away from politics, and yeah, I like I like buying some of that stuff. I think it's great. One day maybe pass it on to a kid. So yeah, I got Bellybolt back there. That's from a newer gen. I got Mimikyu. This was actually my first plushie that I ever bought over there. And here we got a Piplup and a limited edition Rayquaza. This is the shiny one. So yeah, that little tidbit about me. I love Pokemon. It helps me clear my head when politics has become too much, and then I could get back in the fight. And now that we got that covered, I just need you to meet me at my reciprocal tariff, right? You're gonna get to watch this content, and in return, I'm gonna get your like, comment, subscription. Sounds fair? I think it's fair. Let's go ahead and get into it, guys.
Senator Alex Padilla, I have questions for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your heads off.
Now, guys, don't get caught up in the theatrics of this. You don't get to just come into any press conference and start barking questions, no matter what office you're in. It's rude, it's poor decorum, it shows that you have low impulse control, and he was promptly taken out correctly. And on top of that too, even if he was really passionate about those questions and felt they had to be asked right then and there, you don't get to push against Secret Service. You don't get to throw your shoulder back into the security. That's not how this works. If they're pushing you out, you allow them to do that. You allow them to escort you out, and then you meet afterwards and say, that wasn't right. That's the correct way to handle that. Even if you were this, crazy radical leftist that needed those questions asked, you don't do it that way.
How many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty?
That's new video this midday. Senator Alex Padilla had to be physically removed from a press conference in Los Angeles. This was captured by Fox News reporter Bill Meleghin. The conference was held by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and in the video, as you can see, Senator Padilla is being grabbed by multiple men and being forced out of the room. Now, CNN reports that he was trying to shout questions at the secretary before security stepped in. The news conference comes amid days of protests against her agency and its immigration enforcement actions. Senator Padilla has been critical of the Trump administration's response to immigration protests in Southern California.
When it comes to Los Angeles or other cities, if we see other cities are gearing up, and these people are agitators, they're paid, they're professionals, they're insurrectionists, they're troublemakers, they're all of those things, but I believe they're paid.
Meanwhile, President Trump is calling on an investigation into people protesting against immigration enforcement officials, saying what they are doing is unbelievably illegal. Good morning, I'm Carl Cook. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Marines are set to be deployed to LA before the end of this week. This afternoon, a federal judge will hear from both Governor Gavin Newsom and the Trump administration following the governor's request for an emergency order to block the president from using the National Guard for immigration enforcement. Meanwhile, the Trump administration says it's willing to send troops to other cities in the U.S. as protests against ICE continue to pop up across the country. Out in Indianapolis, people gathered outside the NBA Finals yesterday.
We want ICE out of our communities. We have seen what's gone on in Los Angeles. We've seen what's been happening in other cities. We've seen what's happened in Jackson County, Indiana just today.
Notice how it's always, we want ICE out of the city. We want ICE. It's not that we want the rapists out. It's not that we want the murderers out. It's not that we want the cartels out. It's not that we want the fentanyl out. No, we want the law enforcement out. Because this is, look, you could even read it right there on the screen. Let's see. Can you guys see my mouse? Look, Party for Socialism and Liberation. These people aren't peaceful. As I mentioned in my last video, socialism is the precursor to communism, And the socialists will argue, oh, well, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get to communism. There's plenty of socialist countries. The point is, it sets the stage, right? It sets the stage. And liberation. Liberation from what? The current U.S. government? No, these people are rebels. These people are insurrectionists. Like, I'm over it. I have no pity for all of this nonsense going on. Nonetheless, they have a right to protest. They have a right to be out there until they get violent. Until you start to interrupt the everyday business of the city, which I argue that most of these protests, if not all of them, end up doing.
And we are sick and tired of it. These people that ICE are taking are our neighbors, they're our friends, our coworkers, and we want them to stay in our communities, not be ripped away from them.
Organizers say they will be willing to be protesting again on Saturday.
You know, if I was king for a day, if I was a sitting senator or House representative, I've always felt that the way that you teach a leftist that they're wrong is to let them see the folly of their own policy. You know what I think would be great? A policy that lets you sponsor an immigrant as long as you take 100% of their liability. So any crimes they commit, any debt they incur, you're responsible for it. I feel like that would shut a lot of these people up real fast. And the ones dumb enough to do it would immediately end up in jail or in hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt.
Saturday, and hundreds of protesters gathered in downtown San Antonio outside of City Hall. Some participants expressed frustration, stating they supported deportations of undocumented immigrants who committed crimes, not those who have lived and worked peacefully in the U.S. for years. One protester saying, quote, seeking a better life is not a crime. The protests remained calm with no reported incidents.
First off, it is a crime if you come here illegally. Crossing the border is not seeking asylum. You come through a port of entry or you come to an embassy and you request asylum. That is the correct way to do it. Breaking into the country is not seeking asylum. Let's get that clear.
More protests are planned for the weekend. In Tucson, tensions boiled over during protests leading to some arrests. It started out peacefully with about 300 people coming out, holding up signs criticizing the Trump administration and actions by immigration officials. But eventually, protesters split, with some breaking through a barricade in front of an ICE office. Some threw objects, as you can see. Graffitiing happened and windows were smashed. It led to over 40 police officers in riot gear showing up as protesters say they didn't wanted to get to this point, and they hoped the message wasn't lost among the chaos.
I mean, it's clear that there are a lot of folks in this group who mean business, and the police had to be called out. But you know what? I think in the end, the people are going to win this.
I think we're just standing up for what's right. It's not even really political anymore. It's just about morals, and it's about being a human being.
Protesters eventually made their way back, but about an hour later, police moved in, pushing them further away. And that is when things escalated again. At least 3 people were taken into custody. And this morning we spoke with Alex Michelson, the host of The Issue Is, about the developing situation in Southern California. He says it isn't exactly as chaotic as the president seems to be suggesting.
It's about 1 square mile where the worst of it was happening.
Only 1 square mile, guys. Come on. It's only 1 square mile, destruction, chaos, and degeneracy. What's the big deal? It's only 1 mile, dude. Ridiculous.
So what the mayor did was put a curfew on that 1 square mile overnight, which is when most of the worst stuff was happening. And so far, that curfew is really working. We've seen in the last 2 days a huge number of LAPD very visibly out in force, basically sending the message, we're kind of over this now, which was not the message, frankly, a couple days ago when the LAPD was kind of seen standing around as a lot of this stuff happened. So far, that policing is working, but we'll see. As you mentioned, Saturday is a big test, not only in Southern California, but around the state. There's going to be protests for this No King's Day because President Trump is going to be hosting a military parade celebrating the birthday of the military and his own birthday.
You know, one thing that is lost in his little narrative is that the police started actually policing after what? After what? Oh, after Trump brought the National Guard and threatened to bring the Marines. So it's almost like he was the catalyst that LA needed to police their own city.
and there's going to be protests around the state, and that's going to be a real test.
Now back here in the Central Valley for that No Kings Day that Michelson just mentioned, 2 events are scheduled in Fresno for that No Kings Day. One will be on Blackstone and East and the other on Shaw and Fresno Street. Some are already getting ahead, starting with banners and signs in Fresno. There were a lot of drivers honking their horns more than usual yesterday near Highway 41 in Shaw in Fresno during rush hour. Drivers are responding to a sign that read, "Honk for Democracy," placed on the highway overpass. Organizers say it's part of an early push to spread the word about No Kings Day.
I think maybe it needs to be a little counter movement. What do you guys think? That's my neighborhood, man. What do you think? What do you think? Should Evan pull up to the scene with a Trump hat on? Document and record the going-ons of No Kings Day? Let me know.
We're drawing attention to the event that's going to be happening all over the country on Saturday, where millions of people are going to be standing in the streets disapproving of the president's military parade for his birthday, of his actions in Los Angeles, generally of his demolishing of our democracy.
Now, on that same day, President Trump plans to showcase America's military power with the parade costing about $45 million. And like Alex Michelson said, it also happens to fall on the president's 79th birthday. This is leading some to question the real motive behind the celebration. Speaking from the Oval Office on Tuesday, President Trump said,
"He can't choose what day he was born, bro. If he was born on the same day as the day the military was created, what do you want him to do?" Oh, dude, I swear it's reaching for anything at this point.
Anyone protesting the military parade in Washington will be met with force.
Good.
We're going to be celebrating big on Saturday. We're going to have a lot of, and if there's any protester who wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. By the way, for those people that want to protest, they're going to be met with very big force. And I haven't even heard about a protest.
According to the Army, more than 6,000 soldiers, 150 vehicles, including tanks, and over 50 aircrafts will be part of the celebration. Now, the last time D.C. hosted a military parade was back in 1991 to mark the end of the Gulf War. According to a Washington Post investigation, that event cost $8 million.
That sounds like a banger to me. Yeah, and I know the cost seems staggering, but let me offer this, right? Think of the amount of financial revenue that draws into everyone that is viewing those parades, everyone that's there in attendance. Like, if you're an entrepreneur and you have an entrepreneurial spirit, that's a great opportunity. Sell American flags, sell hot dogs. Like, that seems to me like a great opportunity, man. So this is Padilla's statement that he made after he was mocked by the Secret Service.
Well, good afternoon, everybody.
Never put your hand on me.
Like, it looks like he has mumps. And did you hear they're already having issues? Never put your hand on me. Oh, wow, bro. You love this crowd, man. This is all they know.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. You guys have some questions. I'm going to read a brief statement. I will not be taking questions, but allow me to read my statement. I'm here in Los Angeles today, and I was here in the federal building, in the conference room, awaiting a scheduled briefing from federal officials as part of my responsibility as a senator to provide oversight and accountability. While I was waiting for the briefing with General Guillot, I learned that Secretary Noem was having a press conference a couple of doors down the hall. Since the beginning of the year, but especially over the course of recent weeks, several of my colleagues, have been asking the Department of Homeland Security for more information and more answers on their increasingly extreme immigration enforcement actions. And we've gotten little to no information in response to our inquiries. And so I came to the press conference to hear what she had to say, to see if I could learn any new additional information. And at one point, I had a question. And let me emphasize, just as we've emphasized the right for people to peacefully protest and to stand up for their First Amendment rights, for our fundamental rights. I was there peacefully. At one point, I had a question. And so I began to ask a question.
Notice he didn't ask to ask a question. He didn't raise his hand. He just began asking his question, right? With no regard for the press conference. You guys saw it. Did that seem like someone that was there peacefully? Someone who's shoulder checking back the Secret Service and security? I think not.
I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was forced to the ground.
As you should have been.
And I was handcuffed.
As you should have been.
I was not arrested. I was not detained.
You should have been.
I will say this. If this is how this administration responds to a senator with a question, if this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country. We will hold this administration accountable. And we'll have more to say. We'll have more to say in the coming days. Let me say just briefly in Spanish as well.
I think not. So before he goes and does his little somber Spanish serenade, I just want to pull up that it's not as crazy as he made it seem, right? He did get to ask his questions. In fact, he had a 15-minute meeting with Kristi Noem after the fact. So let me go ahead and show you that. So this is what you got. Straight from Homeland Security's Twitter. Senator Padilla chose disrespectful political theater and interrupted a live press conference without identifying himself or having his Senate security pin on as he lunged towards Secretary Noem. Mr. Padilla was told repeatedly to back away and did not comply with the officer's repeated commands. Secret Service thought he was an attacker and officers acted appropriately. Secretary Noem met with Senator Padilla after and held a 15-minute meeting. Oh, so you got to answer your questions, right? You interrupted a live press conference and still got your way at the end of the day. I swear, man, the entitlement of these people. But there you have it, right? It's not like how he's making it out to be. He wasn't accosted. Kristi Noem was protected. He wasn't ignored. He had his 15 minutes to ask questions. He wanted political theater. He wanted a show. He wanted attention. So yeah, Padilla, full of shit. You know, I'm not even going to humor his little Spanish thing. I'm going to look for when there's questions.
For not just a community here in Los Angeles, but throughout the country. Because there is a lot of concern, there is a lot of tension, there is a lot of anxiety, and a lot of people are beginning to make plans for what they may or may not do come this Saturday. I encourage everybody to please peacefully protest, just like I was calmly and peacefully listening in that press conference.
No wonder the leftists are so crazy, right? This is their senator. This is who they look up to, shoulder checking the security, right? I swear, man, it's mind-numbing the amount of accountability that is lost with these people. You're a sitting senator. Act like it. No. I want to yell my questions and I want to shoulder check the security, right? And pretend that I'm the victim. Not even mention that I had a 15-minute meeting with Kristi Noem after the fact. It's ridiculous. So there you guys have it. Senator Padilla is full of shit. He acted like a child, still got his way, and wasn't detained, wasn't arrested, as he should have been. But let me know what you guys think. Am I wrong on this? Am I being too hard on Padilla? Let me know, guys. Anyways, this was the video. I'm Evan. I will see you next time. Peace.